Yeah, so actually I like that. I mean, SheHacks has very good security controls. You cannot, turn on your video, you cannot unmute yourself, because there have been a lot of cases of Zoom bombings, ever since, Zoom became mainstream a couple of years ago during COVID. People have been crashing into Zoom meetings. So I'm very impressed that you all have very good security controls. So I think we started off on the right path.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks. Thanks for having us here. SheHacks. SheHacks has been very instrumental to our progress. Let me see if I can share my slides here. Hopefully I have that ability to bring up the slides. Okay. Do a slideshow here. Yeah, so thank you, SheHacks, once again. We don't take this for granted. Thanks for having us on. So my name is Michael Ratemo. I'm a principal consultant, Cybersecurity Simplified. So Cybersecurity Simplified is an organization that offers a wide range of cybersecurity services. We like to say we speak security in the language that anybody can understand, right? So that's our website, cybersecuritysimplified.com. What I wanted to talk about today, I get a lot of questions from people. How can I break into cybersecurity? What are the things I need to do? There's a lot of misconceptions about cybersecurity. So I wanted to kind of bring those to the table so we can have a discussion, right? I'm sure we have other cybersecurity professionals on the line. So if I cannot answer a question for you, I'm sure somebody else will be able to. So the agenda that I have today is, kind of just touch on what is cybersecurity. What are some of the myths that are out there that a lot of people, bring to the table, right? For instance, a lot of people tell me, I can't get into cybersecurity because I have to be an expert programmer, right? I have to know Java, I have to know Python, C++. That is not true at all. And then we'll look at some of the skills that employers are looking for in terms of cybersecurity. And then there's a workforce gap that we have right now in cybersecurity. We'll touch on that, and then what the roles are in cybersecurity, where you can fit in if you were to join this field. I'm assuming a lot of SheHacks are people who are very proponent of cybersecurity, but if there are people who are on the fence or who will probably want to join cybersecurity, we can look at what a cybersecurity professional looks like. Do they look like me? Do they look like you? Who do they look like, right? A lot of times, if you do not see somebody doing something you want to do, it's hard for you to envision yourself doing that particular thing. And then we'll look at career path options. And then I just released a course on LinkedIn Learning called Building and Auditing a Cybersecurity Program. So I'll touch on it lightly, and I'll show you some ways in which you can watch this course of mine for free. I kind of talk about the entire cybersecurity program comprehensively, how you can build one from scratch. So you can look at a cybersecurity program from a CISO's point of view. Any questions before we jump into the presentations? Any comments from anybody, Jackie or SheHacks, before we jump in? Okay, if not, we can go ahead. I think I see some people joining, waiting to join. So if somebody can admit them. So I guess the first thing is, what is cybersecurity? A lot of people ask this question. It sounds like a very complicated concept, right? What is cybersecurity? So the way I like to tell people is, think about physical security. Think about a security guard, right? We call them, what do we call them back in Kenya? Kanjo. I don't know if there's new names for physical security guards, but what is their role, right? Can somebody in the comments tell us what the role of a physical security guard is? If somebody can tell me what the responses are. What is the role of a physical security guard? Or if somebody wants to speak up as well.
Protect.
Right, they're there to protect your house, right? They're there to protect your property, right? So in the same vein, cybersecurity is pretty much the same thing. We are there to protect systems, applications, networks, organizations from cyber attacks. That's pretty much it. The same thing, the physical security. And physical security is actually a component of cybersecurity. So there's a lot of myths in the cybersecurity industry, people trying to get in. So I'm going to talk about some of the top myths you're going to hear about. I'm sure you've probably come across them. Like I mentioned, the first myth we have is you have to be a programmer. Like you have to know C++, Java, you have to be able to code. This is not true. You do not have to be an expert programmer to get into cybersecurity. There are some concepts of programming that will help you in some areas of cybersecurity, especially if you're in application security. If you're doing pen testing, it may be helpful to know what certain code is doing, right? But there's a lot of different roles. Cybersecurity is very broad, so you do not have to be a programmer to get into cybersecurity. Another myth that I hear is you have to be a technical expert. The reality is there's no expert of everything, right? Cybersecurity is very broad. IT is very broad. Even the so-called experts are only experts in a small component of their field, right? So there's so many different areas that you can get into. You don't have to be a techie, to be able to get into cybersecurity. There's some areas that are less technical, like risk management, where you're looking at risks, you're identifying risks and bring them up to management. You're interfacing with enterprise risk management. There's also compliance, where you're looking at regulations. If you work, say, in the health industry, there's a lot of regulations around protecting data of patients. If you work in the financial industry, you have to protect credit card data. And there's a lot of privacy regulations that have come up recently. There's something called GDPR, which came up in the EU for protection of data. There's also the CCPA, which is a California Protection Act. So these are very good areas you can get into that do not require a lot of tech expertise. Another myth that I hear is your current skills are not useful. That is not true. Actually, you have a skill that you can leverage to get into cybersecurity. Actually, I tell people who are trying to break into the field, use your current skills to leverage, get in through a tangential angle, right? So for instance, if you're working in the healthcare industry, you know about protection of patient data, use that to try to get into maybe a data protection role in cybersecurity, right? If you're in physical security or security guard, you know about protecting doors, looking at cameras, identifying who might be a suspicious person. Use that in cybersecurity. We have to identify suspicious activity, right? And then the last myth, and since I'm talking to she-hacks, is that I hear a lot is cybersecurity is not suitable for women. Actually, when we look at slides further, you'll find that in the cybersecurity industry, it's 80% men and 20% women, and we are trying to bridge this gap. And the reality is women are actually very, very good in cybersecurity. The reason being, women think in a different way than men do. They think in a very abstract manner. A lot of cybersecurity involves identifying anomalous behavior, identifying, changes in somebody's personality, right? So when we're talking about insider threat, we are talking about trying to identify, subtle changes, right? Psychological manipulation. When we talk about phishing attacks are based on psychological manipulation. Women are very good in determining psychological issues, right? So this is why we say we want to get women into the field. There's a lot of initiatives that are there to champion women to get into the cybersecurity field. So what I tell people, if you want to get into cybersecurity and you're passionate about this field, ignore all the misconceptions and myths that you've heard about. Put all your eggs in one basket and actually go for it, right? Actually go for it. So these are the top attributes that hiring managers look for in cybersecurity personnel, right? So like I told you, you don't have to be an expert in IT. They want you to have strong problem-solving skills, right? If you're able to get into a room and understand what is the reason things are insecure, why they're insecure, and you can help an organization solve these problems, then you'll be very valuable to them. Also, curiosity and an eagerness to learn. Cybersecurity is a very, very dynamic field. It changes a lot, right? So if you're eager to learn, you'll be able to keep up with the trends. Like right now, a lot of organizations are going to the cloud. They're going artificial intelligence. So you'll be surprised. There's a lot of people who have been in cybersecurity, but they're not keeping up with the trends. But if you can get in there and show them that you're eager to learn about the cloud, application security, it'll be very beneficial to you. And then cybersecurity certifications, obviously. Strong communication skills are very important, right? You need to be able to talk to management and make them understand why this is a cybersecurity risk, right? You need to be able to translate a cybersecurity risk into a language that management can understand. If you go to management and tell them, I found 500 vulnerabilities in this application, you will freak them out, right? You have to know how to translate that into a language where you can tell them, we found a couple small weaknesses, but it's only going to cost us like 10,000 shillings, to fix it. Like, it's not a big deal, right? You have to be able to talk into that language that somebody who's not in cybersecurity can understand, right? And then cybersecurity work experience. A lot of people harp on this, but the reality is we have a big shortage of personnel. So a lot of the people who are breaking into the field may not have that experience, even though hiring managers are asking for it. We are telling these managers, we need you people to pick the people who they're showing their propensity to learn and they want to get into this field. And those are other attributes that hiring managers look for. This is kind of a map showing the shortage of cybersecurity professionals in the industry. So 3 years ago, before COVID, we had a 4 million shortage of personnel. Right now, it's almost 3 million. There's 400,000 in North America. Europe, it's 200,000. I do not know why they have not rated Africa in here, but I'm sure there's a shortage in Africa too. Asia Pacific, you can see the numbers. So the reality is there's a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. You keep hearing about breaches in the news every day, right? Companies are now getting cybersecurity on their radar. They want to hire people so they do not appear in the news. They want to make sure that they have good security practices to ensure that their data stays protected. So in terms of the cybersecurity team roles, this is a high-level look at what cybersecurity team roles are, right? So the team roles that you'll find a lot of people in is called security operations. If you've heard of something called a security operations center, SOC, think about a help desk, right? So in cybersecurity, we also have a help desk. A help desk basically takes all the calls. In cybersecurity, they're busy monitoring screens. They're using tools. They're getting alerts of who has clicked on a malicious link, what traffic looks suspicious. So they're busy trying to investigate these things. That's what security operations is. Usually people coming into entry level will go into maybe security operations center. Security administration is almost the same thing. It's administering the security tools. So all the tools we use in security, most companies have tens of of tools that they use. Some companies even hundreds of security tools. So you need somebody to administer those tools, update the signatures, that type of thing. And then I talked about these two roles, risk management and compliance, right? Very nice roles within cybersecurity. We need people who can understand risk, who can help bring up the risk to enterprise risk management. Because a lot of times, the people within the organization, the executives, they only understand the financial risk and the operational risk, but we need somebody who can talk to them and let them know what the cybersecurity risk is. And then I alluded to compliance. So we need somebody who can be able to translate the regulations out there. Does the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, apply to us? Are we doing business in Europe, right? Are we hosted in the cloud? If your cloud is in Europe, then the GDPR applies to you. Then we have very specialized roles down here, penetration testing, forensics. So if you get into cybersecurity and you want to go into a specialized role, you have that option as well. Then application security is also a big one right here. We have 10% of people. So a lot of attacks nowadays center within applications because the networks have good perimeter security. So applications is the easiest vector for attackers to get into. So that's a very good role to get into, understanding web applications. How can somebody hack into your bank application, right? They're looking at your username, password fields. Are you using encryption when you're sending your username and password? If there's a field that takes in information, do you have any security checks? Can somebody inject any malicious code into those fields, right? So those are some skills that you can get into having if you're getting into application security. So again, we talked about the roles. This is the percentage of roughly of people, security operations has a higher percentage. The forensics have a lower percentage. And then the middle roles are kind of in the low 10s, 15%. And then what do cybersecurity professionals look like, right? So 12% of cybersecurity professionals have a high school diploma. At least in the US, that's the data that's out there, right? So 23% of them do not have a bachelor's degree. 38% of them have a degree, bachelor's, master's. Usually people with a master's will be your managers, your CISOs, that kind of thing. And then the people with the doctorate are usually going to be like your researchers, writing articles, papers, looking for the next threats, that kind of a thing, right? And then the interesting thing I talked about, it's 80% male and 20% female, right? So we need to bridge that gap. That's where organizations like SheHacks comes into place, right? We need more diversity in the industry. The more diversity we have, the more varied points of view we can get, the easier it is for us to solve these cybersecurity problems. So people ask, how do I get into cybersecurity? How do I get into cybersecurity? I have no background in IT. I have no background in security. So I say the fastest way to get in cybersecurity is to get some certification, right? You could go to college. It may take you 4 years, to get a degree in tech or cybersecurity, but a certification can take you as little as 3 months, right? If you're serious, you can get a certification in 3 months. And with the lack of manpower in the industry right now, just getting basic certification and showing that you have some aptitude is sufficient to get you hired, right? Some of the certifications that you can get right now, if you have zero IT experience at all or security experience, I recommend this certification. It's called the IC Squared Entry-Level Cybersecurity Certification. IC Squared is the organization that manages the CISSP certification, the gold standard in cybersecurity, right? They have just piloted this new certification. I think it's still in the pilot stage. If you have zero knowledge at all, right, you can go ahead, train, and get this certification. This will get you some credentials to get going. If you have some basic IT knowledge, you know what a server is, you know what an IP address is, you know what a database is, I recommend you go get the Security Plus certification. Security Plus is offered by an organization called CompTIA. And it's a solid entry-level certification. It will give you a good baseline of all the knowledge you need in cybersecurity, right? Once you get the baseline knowledge, then I advise people to specialize after that. If you want to specialize, a lot of times, once you get this baseline information, you'll kind of gravitate towards one area, right? So you'll find out what you like in cybersecurity. You might like risk management. You might like penetration testing. You might like just application security. You'll figure out, what draws you and what you're passionate about. And like I said, try to get in a tangential angle from your current field. Try to leverage your current skills. It's better to leverage your current skills than to get in starting from scratch. So there's a website here called cyberseek.org. So if you want to map out a career path, you can go to cyberseek.org. I think if somebody can share, I'll share the link on the bottom, but it's cyberseek.org. So if you're wanting to go to a networking role, it gives you what the entry level position is, and then what you can do mid-level, and then what you can do advanced. If you want to go down the application security route, if you want to go down the development route, this is a good resource to have. I think CompTIA also has a certification roadmap that you can use to kind of chart out your certification or your path in cybersecurity. So I was going to talk about a course I released recently. It's called Building and Auditing Your Cybersecurity Program, right? It's on LinkedIn Learning. I'm hoping you all have LinkedIn accounts. If you do not have, please create a LinkedIn account. That's one way to kind of push your professional self out there, right? So you want to have a LinkedIn account. So I have a LinkedIn Learning course, and I'll show you all how you can get this course for free. So the Building and Auditing a Cybersecurity Program, like I talked about, it's a course I created. I wanted people to have a comprehensive view of what cybersecurity is, right? From high level, right? From what a CISO looks, a bird eye view, right? So we talk about when you're building your cybersecurity program, the first thing you want to do is start off with a cybersecurity framework, right? You want to have a framework. A framework is true practices that have been vetted by the industry. So some of the top frameworks we have are the NIST cybersecurity frameworks. We have the CIS, Center for Controls, Critical Security Controls. We have COBIT. We have ISO 27001, 27002, ITIL, all those frameworks. Pick a framework. You can even pick components from a framework and use it to start building your program, right? So the framework will tell you what security controls you need to put in place. Once you have a framework, the next thing you want to do is implement asset management for cybersecurity. So one thing we say in cybersecurity, you cannot protect what you do not know. So you need to have a handle of your assets, right? You need to know exactly how many laptops you have, right? Do I have 5 laptops? Is one sitting at home? How many applications are on each asset, right? Do I have assets in the cloud? Is somebody managing those assets in the cloud? So you need to be able to inventory your assets in order to protect them. And then as we go down, we talk about securing your supply chain. So supply chain talks about all the third parties that you work with, right? That might introduce risk into your organization. So if you're on the cloud, if you're using AWS or Azure, that is a third party, that's a supply chain. Do you have controls around your cloud, right? Who's there to manage your cloud patching, right? Do you understand your shared responsibility? Do you know what the cloud is doing for you? Do you know what you are meant to do for yourself? A lot of times people don't understand. They think the cloud provider does everything for them, but that's not the reality, right? You might be responsible for a lot of different things, you know, in terms of cloud protection, right? Then we talk also about encryption, right? So nowadays you have confidential data, right? You have business critical data, financial records, you know, trade secrets, Coca-Cola trade secrets, social security numbers, PIN numbers. All those numbers have to be protected. So we have to apply encryption to data at rest and data in transit. You know, to your sensitive data, you need to apply encryption. Another good thing we talk about, good control to have, is access management, right? You want to make sure the correct people are accessing your resources. Then vulnerability management. You need to have a program to ensure somebody is looking at all the vulnerabilities within your applications, right? We need to have some tools. We need to have some processes, some standards. Somebody's actually, you know, chasing down the application owners. Have you patched Java? Have you patched this system? Have you patched your Windows? Are we running any outdated systems? Is there any reason we are running Windows XP, right? It's not supported by Microsoft. What happens if we get breached? Then we also talk about how you can deploy secure configuration standards, right? You want to use some standards that have been created. There's a Center for Internet Security that has very good standards that you can use to create and build your systems. So when you build a system from scratch, you want to make sure that you are disabling like wide open access, right? If there are any default accounts, a lot of systems come with admin account, admin password. You want to change those passwords so that an intruder cannot have easy access to your systems, right? A lot of times people do not change those default configuration settings. And then you also want to have network security monitoring to help detect your cyber threats. You want to have tools like firewalls, intrusion detection systems. You want to have something called a SIEM if your organization is that mature. Security event management. it's a tool that aggregates all your different alerts and kind of gives you a good view, right? All the traffic that's coming into your organization. A SIM will help you, right? You want to have a SOC, Security Operations Center. If you cannot afford one, maybe you can outsource it to another organization, right? So depending on how big your organization is, if it's a small organization, you might not need all that, but you want to have some form of protection. And then incident management. What happens if you get a ransomware attack? You know what to do. Ransomware attacks are the number one attacks that we are seeing nowadays, right? If you come into work and you see ransomware all over your screens, you know who to call. Do you have backups? Do you have trusted backups that you can recover, right? Is your organization going to suffer reputation? And then we also want to make sure we have disaster recovery, right? We want to integrate cybersecurity in your disaster recovery. Make sure when they're doing disaster recovery tests, they're not just thinking about floods and earthquakes and all the natural disasters. Make sure they're also thinking about cybersecurity, natural threats, right? Like what happens if we get attacked, right? What happens if we get a breach? Have we accounted for that? Who's the person to call, right? Are we interfaced with maybe the FBI, maybe the police, right? Who are the organizations that I need to talk to? Do I have my vendors on call if I need new computers, right? Can they come and deliver this thing? Do I know where my employees are going to work from? Can they work from home? Do we have VPN set up? Do we have remote access already set up, right? You don't want to be setting up these things when you have a crisis, right? So you want to prepare. Mike Tyson famously said, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face, right? And then again, we talked about ransomware. So make sure you have trusted data backups to protect against ransomware. And then these are kind of the top 10 takeaways that I kind of wrote down from my LinkedIn learning program, right? So the first thing I say, the cloud is not secure by design. So a lot of people say, you know what, I'm moving my business operations to the cloud because AWS is going to protect me and do everything for me. In reality, that's not true, right? One of the biggest things we see in the cloud is something called misconfiguration, right? You put all your data in the cloud and you think it's in a private cloud, but it's in a public cloud. It's a button that you press, public or private. You might think you pressed private, but you press public. So if you're in a public repository, all your data is accessible to anybody on the internet. So you need somebody to check on that. Then another thing we talk about is application security practices need to evolve beyond the old methods of just network perimeter security, right? We need to do application security testing. We need to hire people who are very intelligent and knowledge of things like OWASP, the top 10 web application attacks, right? People who know secure coding practices. You want to be able to work with your developers to be able to ensure that they're developing code that has very minimal vulnerabilities. You want to be able to ensure security is getting in there as soon as possible. The another thing we say is your organization is very likely to experience a cybersecurity incident. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have a plan because it's going to happen sooner or later. Sensitive data needs to be encrypted in transit and at rest. We already said that. Okay. Another thing that's very important, multi-factor authentication. If you have any privileged accounts, administrators, root users, any remote network access, if people are remoting in from home to your company's organization's network, or you have any external facing applications, if you have any applications that are on the internet, all those need to have multi-factor authentication at a minimum, right? At a minimum. So we talked about the supply chain risk. You can outsource information systems and services, but not cyber risk, right? Even though you outsource to AWS, if there's a breach, your company is the one that's going to be in the news, not AWS, right? AWS might be in the news, but it will be so-and-so's company got breached. You cannot protect what you do not know. So you need to inventory your assets, right? Another thing we talk about is risk management. We cannot eliminate all the risks that we face in the organizations, right? All the cyber risks. So what we do, we have to do risk management and manage it to an acceptable level that has been identified by the organization, right? We cannot, there's a cost benefit factor to security, right? So we cannot say we are going to secure everything 100%. We are going to figure out what the critical data is and then protect that, right? And then whatever else we term is acceptable to the organization is what we'll live with. And then we also talk about trusted data backups to mitigate against ransomware attacks. So ensuring that you have backups that are offline, maybe you make sure you're testing them, make sure we have what we call immutable backups. They cannot be overwritten. Nobody can write on the backups. You know, you have technology that's monitoring the backups in case there are changes, or in case ransomware is trying to modify the backups, you'll be able to get notification of that or get stoppage of that, you know. And then the last thing we talk about is organizations need to subscribe to threat and vulnerability sharing organizations so you can know about the latest threats, right? So if you're in the health industry, we have something called ISAC, information sharing communities. You can find a health sharing community, find out the latest threats in the healthcare industry. In the financial industry, there's one, you know, there's things like US CERT, CISA, all these organizations will help you. It's public partnership, right? Private public partnership. So you want to partner with the public and the private to be able to ensure that you're collaborating together. Right. So those are the main takeaways for my course. And I was going to say, so my course, Building and Auditing a Cybersecurity Program, is on LinkedIn Learning, right? So if anybody does not have a LinkedIn Learning Premier account, what they can do, I can share the course for free. But what you need to do is add me to your LinkedIn, right? My name is Michael Retemo. I think maybe Nancy can post my my LinkedIn profile on there, and then send me a message that, can you please send me the course? And then I'll send you the course. And once you get the course, I think it gives you 24 hours free access from first click, right? So that way you can review the whole course for free. And then once the course is, you complete the course, LinkedIn will issue you a certificate. And the certificate, you know, you can publish it on your LinkedIn profile, and people can get to know that you have done some course in cybersecurity. And if you're looking for a job in cybersecurity, that can be one of the ad that you have, right? So I want to open it up for questions, unless we have any comments before we open it up for questions. I'm sure some people have questions. Any comments? Jackie, Nancy, any comments?
I would like to make a comment if that's okay with all of you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Please do.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
We're fine, Jackie. Thank you so much for the support accorded so far. We actually have Eve on call as well.
Oh, great. The attendance has been phenomenal. The content are absolutely amazing. I just wanted to add that whenever anybody takes the course on LinkedIn Learning, there'll be a certificate issued, and that certificate will be displayed on your LinkedIn profile. So for those who are looking to get into the industry or stay in the industry, whatever the case may be, the fact that one has actually taken the course, has gotten the content, has, it has resonated, they've absorbed it, that fact will also just be listed. So they'll get a certificate for that. So just FYI, as we're all trying to grow in this industry, just good things to note about that and taking this course. Michael, thank you so much for everything. This has been phenomenal. All the time I learn from you, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Jackie has been one of the biggest supporters of She Hacks and the different groups we have within cybersecurity, ensuring we grow. So I've also shared my LinkedIn Learning link. If you just click on it, you can add me on there. You can just search for me, Michael Retemo. There might be a couple people on there, but I think you'll figure out which one I am. So I have a few more minutes. So does anybody have any questions? If you want to type them in the chat or...
Hey, Michael.
Yes.
Russell here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So first and foremost, like I've said before, definitely appreciate you putting this course together. I've taken it myself, and I took it out of curiosity, and it definitely outlines how you can, from people who are trying to get in, what's involved in it and what you can chase and what your areas are. So Michael has done a big job of what many of us who've been in the industry a long time should have done. Break it down into simple chunks of what you can understand. So I think from what you say is it's a matter of understanding what you want to do. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of content and then there's missing data also from Kenya. But one thing which we can also do is we take what we've learned and try and map them parallel to what we have. I think there's a bit of Data Privacy Act laws, computer misuse laws in Kenya, and see how you can map them to those and then how you can call out the risks. The other advent which we want to do, which I'm also a big proponent, is women in technology. There's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of skill sets being developed and a lot of opportunities, whether they are now or even in the coming months. For example, in stateside, there's a big shortage. And right now, in a lot of decision-making conversations, there's conversations on where is the next frontier? Can we get talent from? I know the other day we were even talking about Shilingi Fund in a conference here, something by Standard Chartered. And people said, oh, we didn't know there is tech talent in Kenya. And and things like that. So you find, equip yourself now, have the fortitude and mental thing that it's for the long run. You will break in at some point. Don't go for 1, 2, 3 interviews and feel dejected. Interviews are part of the learning process because you know what's being asked, what's needed, what do I lack, and then keep going at it. And the door will open, or if not, the window. You just jump through the roof, but you'll make it. Just hang in there. But good stuff to both of you and Jackie. You guys are doing a wonderful job. And for SheHacks, this is my first event, and definitely appreciate the audience and content.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. By the way, Russell is a Chief Information Security Officer for some firm in Dallas, Texas. So feel free to network with him. He can give you a lot of unique points of view that he's seen throughout his career in the cybersecurity arena. So he's a very, very useful resource. Feel free to network with him. He has a lot of knowledge that cannot be found in books or documentation.
Before I forget, not to take too much time, but I want to appreciate Chris Marks. Chris Marks, I call him my security kid. Chris Marks worked for me years ago. He's gone on and read everything, taken every course there is on blockchain, name it and stuff. And Chris Marks is moving on to a technical security officer job in a few weeks. So not to put your business in the limelight, but congratulations and thanks for the support, Chris.
Hey, way to go, Chris Marks. That's very impressive. Those are some good accolades to have.
Thank you, Michael. This is Eve here. Sorry, I didn't join earlier. Thank you so much. And the session has been really fruitful and well attended today. And I'd like to encourage everyone else to subscribe to the course and get that free certification at any day. And this weekend is gonna be a long one for us. We have a full 5 days to go. So I think you'll be done with the course in those 5 days. So yes, more learning for everyone for the weekend.
Yeah, somebody told me it's midterm in Kenya this weekend.
Yeah.
There's like, I think 5-6 day weekend or something of the sort.
From tomorrow to Tuesday.
Wow.
We're resuming work on Wednesday.
So it's probably started now because it's evening time. So you have what, another 5-6 days?
Yes. So I think Russell will reach out to you for further communications and how we can work together.
Sure. Any other questions on how to break into the field of cybersecurity? I still have a few minutes, so utilize me while I'm still here because it's easier to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
A comment is saying that they're not able to send you a message on LinkedIn. How do they go about that?
Oh, I think I got to accept them. Let me, I need to go to my LinkedIn and accept them first, and they'll be able to send me a message. I need to look into my settings as well to make sure people can send me messages from anywhere.
Unless you're using Premium?
Yes, I have Premium, Does it
Yeah,
have a setting to where you cannot just send messages like that?
no, if someone else doesn't have premium, they will not be able to send you a message.
Even if you're friends on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Maybe we're friends on LinkedIn.
Okay. Just add me, then I'll just look at all the people who've added me, and I'll ensure that I drop the course into your LinkedIn learning box.
Okay.
So, quick question, Mike, for those people who are like me, who already connected with you. I was looking at the course, and I don't see where I can get onto it unless I reactivate my premium access.
Yes, that's what we're just talking about. I can send you the course for free on your LinkedIn inbox.
Okay, I just pinged you, so you should have me. Yeah, this is me. This is Meshach, by the way.
Oh, this is Meshach. Meshach, how's it going?
Good.
Are you protecting the nation's secrets?
Yes, secretly.
Okay, good to hear.
You mentioned something, and I wanted to actually bring up the vulnerability management aspect of the cloud. Since I am working on a program right now where I'm working, and one of the things that I'm finding out as I'm building the program is AWS, Azure, or GCP is not sufficient on VMP, sorry. So one of the things that I am realizing is a lot of things have to be done in-house. And then also I'm realizing that when you're on FedRAMP and FedRAMP High, which is two different settings, there are some tools that cannot give you all you have to do. So eventually we are going back to old school building things on spreadsheets for asset inventory and all that. So if not built well, it will be it will bite.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we are seeing. Some of the cloud native tools that are offered by the cloud providers, AWS, Microsoft, Azure, and Google Cloud, they're not sufficient. So a lot of people are using either third-party tools or are having to create their own tools, for certain aspects of security. So that's a good call out there. Yeah, keep up that vulnerability management. We want to make sure no vulnerabilities are introduced into your cloud. Some of the top things we see in the cloud right now is something called secrets management, right? People are not like storing things like passwords, keys securely, right?
And even encryption keys, yes.
Encryption keys as well, right?
Yes.
So you need to have them like in a vault where you can rotate them on a periodic basis, right?
Yes.
Some people are actually storing secrets in code, and that's a big no-no. We talk about that in the course. Like, let your developers know, do not write any passwords in code, right? If you're writing code, do not embed a password in there. Developers do this because it's easy for them to do testing. Mm-hmm. But what happens is sometimes they'll leave the code in there, promote the code into production. Next thing you know, they're in a public GitHub and all your passwords are out in the public, right? And that's all an intruder needs, is to get one password and he can try to get into your systems.
Yes, I agree.
So Meshach, I can quickly add to Mike's point, and if you want to, you can reach out and I can help. I do have access to, not access, but I do use all clouds, except obviously Alibaba, Oracle, and stuff. But one of the challenges, like you said, is teaching the native tools, because they're yet to just see that environment. And to make it easier, there's tools called Cloud Workload Protection Platform that you can use to see across that. And then the other is just the discipline of shifting left, the CI/CD pipeline. How do you test from when you get the idea or before the thing goes to market, or do you test after the market? The further right you test, the more cost it is. So depending on how creative you can get, and if you have a good, smart data people and AI, you can avoid some of the cost of the tools, because they're premium, because the vendors know that there is a weakness in AWS, GCP, and Azure. So you can get premium, but feel free to reach out. We can have further discussion.
Yeah, Russell has a very excellent point. You want to include security as early as possible, in the software development process. If you're doing CI/CD, you want to make sure they're included at the very beginning, because the later you include them, the more expensive you're going to have to be patching, doing things that you should have done at the beginning, right? You'll be patching stuff that you should have incorporated at the beginning. So you want to make sure security is brought into the table when you're doing your initial design, when you're talking about your requirements, when, if you want a car, do you want square wheels or do you want round wheels? You want to make sure security is there so that they are able to ensure that those security requirements are also translated, and ensure that as you go throughout, the development process, security is involved. That's why we are kind of have this DevSecOps concept where you want to make sure, security is in the middle of development and operations, right? Even though we are trying to automate things are running very fast. We want to make sure that we've incorporated those security controls into the process, right? To ensure that our code that we push out is secure, our products are secure. So excellent point, Russell. Any questions on the chat? Any other comments before we wrap it up?
Yes, maybe I'll just help you with the questions. Maybe a question you might have missed. Thank you so much, even Russell and Meshach, for the insights. If you're still learning. So there's a question, what are your takes on the blockchain or the new wave of Web3 when it comes to security?
Oh, that's a very broad question, right? So when you're talking about blockchain, you're talking a lot about these business processes that you're trying to ensure that these blockchains have private data, right? So you want to make sure you have a governance structure. You want to ensure you have your cases early. You want to make sure you don't store files that are unsecured in the blockchain. So a lot of the security practices that we have on the cloud will apply to blockchain. I'm not a blockchain expert, so maybe somebody else can chime in, but those are the key ones you want to look out for.
So blockchain presents a big challenge. No one understands it, people fear it, like any new technology, but the more you learn about it, the quicker it becomes. Obviously it becomes because the whole thing about blockchain, everything is so wrapped up in secrecy and what it comes out with. So for us in the industry, it's becoming, it's definitely a challenge. For example, where I work for a fintech organization. We provide crypto products, and we're soon going to be trading on NFTs and stuff like that. And so we definitely have to leverage the technology. It's such a niche market. For example, we tried to get a consulting organization, and they were solid book. They could only talk to us 6 months down the line. So that just tells you where the wave, how it's going. It may start on this side, but we know everything travels east or west. It will soon be global. So I just think the security challenges are wide, and that's why it's easy to get down the ground level and then spread your wings, try learn it. I think to the same accolades, I know I've signed Chris enough accolades. I talked to him a month ago about blockchain and the challenges and stuff, and I think he's already wearing 2 certifications on blockchain. That's what he did. He went and dug out and did that. And that's the thing, you have to always be willing to learn. That's the attraction I have for cybersecurity. And honestly, I've done it for 20 plus years, and every day is different and keeps you on toes. So if that's the kind of life you like, you don't like to get bored, this is the place to be, or the industry to be on. Honestly, you're always chasing somebody or chasing the next new technology.
Yeah, so if you're in cybersecurity, it's a very dynamic field. You see, we have all these new fields coming up: blockchain, artificial intelligence, the cloud. So you have to be able to keep up with these concepts. Like it's constant new churn of, new events, new processes, new products. So being able to understand them, especially if your organization is using them, so you can assist the organization in securing, those particular products. One more question before we call it. I think we have 3 more minutes. If anybody has anything.
Great job, Mike. I got to drop and walk to the next one.
Okay. If not, Shihaks, wrap it up, and thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Sorry, I was muted. I wanted to mention something with the advent of remote work, and a lot of companies walking away from geofencing their employees. I think, to me, I would put it as a call out there to techies in Kenya to reach out their scope. You guys in this call, don't be afraid to go to LinkedIn and look for jobs that are fully remote, that are looking for security professionals in any line that will allow you to work from Kenya. I know a couple of my friends here who live in Kenya right now and I've just taken that step. So please, it's a call. These jobs are out there. The 300,000 jobs that need to be filled are not only secluded to people in the US.
Good stuff, Mesha. Can you give people more information on how they can, if they need to reach you, on how they can try to start looking for remote jobs in the US from Kenya? Because I've heard of cases of people working, for US organizations from Kenya. And I'm sure that's something people would be very interested. I think we have a lot of talent in Kenya, right? So we want to bridge that talent with the opportunities that we have in the West here, in the UK, the US, that kind of thing.
Sure. Mesha Kamani, I'm on LinkedIn. Just hit me up.
Okay. Maybe we can post his name as well, Mesha Kamani. Let me put it on there. Yeah, so thanks for that. If Shihaks, if you want to wrap it up, we really appreciate everybody's taking their time out to listen to this talk. And I'll definitely get the course to everybody who's added me on LinkedIn. And I think you have 24 hours from first click to watch the course. The course is just an hour, 45 minutes. So just figure out whenever you have a good time to watch it, then you can watch it. And hopefully it will add value to your cybersecurity career. You want to wrap it up, Shihaks?
Yes. Thank you so much, Michael, for giving your time speaking to us. The audience really loved your talk, as you can see by the comments. They were really engaged, and I'm glad you answered a lot of questions about the cybersecurity careers and how to go about it, and the information on your slides were impeccable, as you saw.
Thank you so much, Michael, for making time today to take us through. It's been
we call that crosstalk in networking. When two different lines are talking across each other, that's called crosstalk. You might see that in one of your questions in a certification.
Well, as I was saying, thank you again. And thank you so much to our participants for making time to come. I guess we shall wish you a good night and see you again next week.
Yeah, thank you all. Nice to meet you. We'll connect on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, have a good one.